Hey, all right. I think we're streaming. Yes, welcome to the stream. Now, why can't I see comments? Let's figure this out. Hey, all right. I think we're streaming. Interesting. Yes, welcome to the stream. Going to have to mute my computer now. Yeah, why can't part of the fun comments? Of live streaming is let's still figure this out. Hey, all right. I think we're streaming. See here. Yes, welcome to the stream. Going to have to mute my computer. It actually works. Why can't part of the fun comments? Live streaming, but I can't see comments. Let's still figure this out. Hey, all right. I think we're streaming. See here. Yes, welcome to the stream. Going to figure that out. My computer. It actually works. Why can't part of the comments live streaming, but I can't see comments. Let's figure this out. Hey, all right. I think we're streaming. See here. Yes, welcome to the stream. Let's figure that out. My computer. It actually works. I can't part of the comments live streaming, but I can't see comments. Let's figure this out. Hey, all right. I think we're streaming. See here. Yes, I'm just playing around with all the figure that out settings. My computer. It actually works. I can't part of the comments live streaming, but I can't see comments. Let's figure this out. Hey, all right. I think we're streaming. See here. Yes, I'm just playing around with all the figure that out settings. My computer. Actually works. I can't part of the comments live streaming, but I can't see comments. Let's figure this out. Hey, all right. I think we're streaming. See here. Yes, I'm just playing around with all the figure that out settings. My computer. Actually works. I can't part of the comments. I mean, none of you guys can see comments. Let's figure this out. Hey, if there's anybody watching, I think we're streaming. See here. Yes, I'm just playing around with all the figure that out settings. My computer. Actually works. I can't part of the comments. I mean, none of you guys can see comments. I use if there's anybody watching, I think we're streaming. How do you get comments? Yeah, I'm just playing around with all the figure that out settings. My computer. Actually works. I can't part of the comments. I mean, none of you guys can see comments. I use if there's anybody watching, I think we're streaming. How do you get comments? Yeah, I'm just playing around with all the figure that out settings. My computer. Actually works. I can't part of the comments. I mean, none of you guys can see comments. I use if there's anybody watching, I think we're streaming. How do you get comments? Yeah, I'm just playing around with all the figure that out settings. My computer. Actually works. I can't part of the comments. I mean, none of you guys can see comments. I use if there's anybody watching, I think we're streaming. How do you get comments? Yeah, I'm just playing around with all the figure that out settings. My computer. Actually works. I can't part of the comments. I mean, none of you guys can see comments. I use if there's anybody watching, I think we're streaming. How do you get comments? Yeah, I'm just playing around with all the figure that out settings. My computer. Actually works. I can't part of the comments. I mean, none of you guys can see comments. I use if there's anybody watching, I think we're streaming. How do you get comments? Yeah, I'm just playing around with all the figure that out settings. My computer. Actually works. I can't part of the comments. I mean, none of you guys can see comments. I use if there's anybody watching, I think we're streaming. How do you get comments? Yeah, I'm just playing around with all the figure that out settings. My computer. Actually works. I can't part of the comments. I mean, none of you guys can see comments. I use if there's anybody watching, I think we're streaming. How do you get comments? Yeah, I'm just playing around with all the figure that out settings. My computer. Actually works. I can't part of the comments. I mean, none of you guys can see comments. I use if there's anybody watching, I think we're streaming. How do you get comments? Yeah, I'm just playing around with all the figure that out settings. My computer. Actually works. I can't part of the comments. I mean, none of you guys can see comments. I use if there's anybody watching, I think we're streaming. How do you get comments? Yeah, I'm just playing around with all the figure that out settings. My computer. Actually works. I can't part of the comments. I mean, none of you guys can see comments. I use if there's anybody watching, I think we're streaming. How do you get comments? Yeah, I'm just playing around with all the figure that out settings. My computer. Actually works. I can't part of the comments. I mean, none of you guys can see comments. I use if there's anybody watching, I think we're streaming. How do you get comments? Yeah, I'm just playing around with all the figure that out settings. My computer. Actually works. I can't part of the comments. I mean, none of you guys can see comments. I use if there's anybody watching, I think we're streaming. How do you get comments? Yeah, I'm just playing around with all the figure that out settings. My computer. Actually works. I can't part of the comments. I mean, none of you guys can see comments. I use if there's anybody watching, I think we're streaming. How do you get comments? Yeah, I'm just playing around with all the figure that out settings. My computer. Actually works. I can't part of the comments. I mean, none of you guys can see comments. I use if there's anybody watching, I think we're streaming. How do you get comments? Yeah, I'm just playing around with all the figure that out settings. My computer. Actually works. I can't part of the comments. I mean, none of you guys can see comments. I use if there's anybody watching, I think we're streaming. How do you get comments? Yeah, I'm just playing around with all the figure that out settings. My computer. I know you guys have to Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I know you guys have to Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I know you guys have to Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I know you guys have to Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I know you guys have to Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I know you guys have to Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I know you guys have to Does anybody else? Because playing around and going can't hear me. I know you guys have to This change. Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I think I have to turn it off. Can't hear me. I know you guys have to Alright. This change. Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I think I have to turn it off. Can't hear me. I know you guys have to Alright. This change. Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I think I have to turn it off. Can't hear me. I know you guys have to Alright. This change. Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I think I have to turn it off. Can't hear me. I know you guys have to Alright. This change. Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I think I have to turn it off. Can't hear me. I know you guys have to Alright. This change. Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I think I have to turn it off. Can't hear me. I know you guys have to Alright. This change. Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I think I have to turn it off. Can't hear me. I know you guys have to Alright. This change. Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I think I have to turn it off. Can't hear me. How about that? I know you guys have to Alright. This change. Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I think I have to turn it off. Can't hear me. How about that? I know you guys have to Alright. This change. Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I think I have to turn it off. Can't hear me. How about that? I know you guys have to Alright. This change. Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I think I have to turn it off. Can't hear me. How about that? I know you guys have to Alright. This change. Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I think I have to turn it off. Can't hear me. How about that? I know you guys have to Alright. This change. Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I think I have to turn it off. Can't hear me. How about that? I know you guys have to Alright. This change. Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I think I have to turn it off. Can't hear me. How about that? I know you guys have to Alright. This change. Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I think I have to turn it off. Can't hear me. How about that? I know you guys have to Alright. This change. Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I think I have to turn it off. Can't hear me. How about that? I know you guys have to Alright. This change. Does anybody else? Because playing around and going I think I have to turn it off. Can't hear me. How about that? I know you guys have to Alright. This change. Does anybody else? Because How about that? Yeah, completely. All right. You guys hear me now? I think I have to turn it off. Still can't hear working. How about that? Every time I completely hear. All right. Every time I say something that is you guys hear me now? I think I have to turn it off. Still can't hear working. How about that? Every time I completely hear. All right. Every time I say something that is you guys hear me now? I think I have to turn it off. Still can't hear working. How about that? Every time I completely hear. All right. Every time I say something that is you guys hear me now? I think I have to turn it off. Still can't hear working. How about that? Every time I completely hear. All right. Every time I say something that is you guys hear me now? I think I have to turn it off. Still can't hear working. How about that? Every time I completely hear. All right. Every time I say something. Wow. You guys hear me now? I think I have to turn it off. Still can't hear working. How about that? Every time I completely hear. All right. Every time I say something. Wow. You guys hear me now? Why is it can't hear working? How about that? Every time I completely hear. All right. Every time I say something. Wow. You guys hear me now? Why is it can't hear working? How about that? Every time I completely hear. All right. I don't know. Every time I say something. Wow. You guys hear me now? Why is it can't hear working? How about that? Every time I completely hear. All right. I don't know. Every time I say something. Wow. You guys hear me now? Why is it can't hear working? How about that? Every time I completely hear. All right. I don't know. Every time I say something. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna stop this. You guys hear me now? Why is it can't hear working? How about that? Every time I completely hear. All right. I don't know. Every time I say something. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna. Now let's see what that does. Let's see what happens. Guys, I gotta figure this out. Oh. I think it worked. Is that better? I think that's working. Is that working for everyone? If you're still in the chat, let me know. Hopefully this is working. Yeah. Hopefully I've got it figured out now. Very weird. Very weird. Okay, thanks. Sounds like Cynthia, you're still here. What a bizarre way to start, huh? Jeez. Okay, at least it seems to be recording something. Um, if you can hear me in the chat, please let me know. Um, I'm gonna fiddle with this a little bit more. Now, there is a delay between when I speak and when I can hear myself. So I'm gonna fiddle with this, and if it disappears, then, you know, all right, so pausing here, you know. Oh, you can hear me. Okay, then I won't fiddle with it anymore. All right, we'll just let it be then. But here's the thing, I can hear myself speak, which is really weird. So I'm going to mute myself and see if you can still hear me, because I'm listening to the stream. So wait, how do I do this? Maybe let me take off the headphones now. Maybe that's how it works, right? All right, we're gonna play this. Sorry guys, this is, I just gotta figure it out, you know? All right, so now what's the deal? So I've taken the headphones off. I'm not hearing myself anymore, which is good. And one more time, Cynthia, since you're still with me, can you hear me now? Just let me know. If you can still hear me, then, you know, that's great. And I appreciate it. And we'll get started with the main stream. Man, otherwise, it's going to be a weird stream, guys. Show inactive sources. I don't know. All right, well. Oh, great. You can hear me. Oh, that's phenomenal. Okay, so we're going to get started then. All right. Thanks everyone for your patience. This is just there's an audio for my future reference if I ever rewatch this, because this will happen again, I'm sure. There is a there is an audio mixer in OBS, which is the streaming software I use. And the audio mixer was, it was just going nuts. Like all the setting, everything was turned on. So it was recording itself, and it was all the reverb, you know, I was speaking and then it was sounding like an echo chamber of myself, right? So the key to that is you have to not turn on the global mixer so that it's getting some sound from somewhere, and then turn off the mixer for the audio from the computer microphone so that my voice is not reverbing back into itself on the computer. I don't understand exactly how it's working, but that's something for my future. And for any future listeners, that's what happened. Something with the mixer in OBS Studio got messed up. Okay, with that out of the way, thank you for your patience. I am going to, what were we going to do today? Oh, today I wanted to start basically, I want to go deeper into researching the Great Minquas Path, and I want to start organizing my research on this, because it's becoming, I want to say, figuring out where the Great Minquas Path is now basically becoming one of my more recent passions. And I'd love to come up with a thesis about where it went. And and I want to eliminate certain historic documents. So I found something recently, that I found a historic document, a history of Philadelphia, that has some clues to where the Great Minquas Path may have been, but it also has some clues that I think are wrong. I think it shows some things that I don't really think makes sense based on what there, where the path went through Delaware County. Let me just show you. Um, Google Maps. Yeah. Is everyone still able to hear me? Just checking in. Hope everyone's having a good evening. Um, if you're able to hear me, let me know. Let me just check how the stream itself is doing. Um, yeah. Okay. Well, let's see if let's get going and we'll see if more people join. For now, Cynthia, I think it's you and me for now, which is great. But all right, let's get going. So basically, yeah, the Great Minquas Path. It went from Philadelphia to the Susquehanna River. Okay, and let's show this map here. This is my map of ancient places. And basically, okay, great. Thanks, Cynthia. Thanks for confirming. Okay, so this is my map of ancient places. And the Great Minquas Path went from Philadelphia to the Susquehanna River. And I've been tracing it, and I think I need to start being a little bit more systematic because the exact route has been lost. I think it's been forgotten, and I am determined to figure out. I would like to figure out where it went, at least have as educated a guess as possible. So you can see this line of red dots is my current best guess. And there's a little, it kind of, this is, I believe this is Gap, PA, or is that Strasburg? No, yeah, that's Gap. So we know it went on Gap, and I believe it went down Strasburg Road, to Westchester. There's one historic marker in Westchester right here that, or right, I should say right here, that you can see. Can we drop down and take a look at the historic marker in Westchester? It's on Church Ave. It's at the end of Church Ave. Where's the stone? There's like this big stone. Oh yeah, here. So see this rock? This is marking, I believe this is marking the Great Minquas Path on the side of the road here. And then there's the blue sign, and you can just make out it says Minquas Path. You can see the word path there if you look close enough. It's obscured by the bushes. But that's what this is about. So we know that the Minquas Path went here in Westchester. So it went somewhere along this road on 322. The next marker that of the path, the next historic marker is all the way over in Rose Valley. Okay? And Rose Valley, where am I looking here? Rose Valley is it's here. So the next marker is all the way over here in Rose Valley. That's Long Point. So this Long Point, so, I made one of my first videos, which was very popular, was a video of me walking down Long Point through the sanctuary, and the path came this way, down the hillside, crossed the river, right, crossed the Ridley Creek, right where it gets narrow, right here, over to Rose Valley Road, and then went up Rose Valley Road. Okay, and somewhere on this, somewhere on Rose Valley Road, why is it not marked, is the marker for the Great Minquas Path. Why is it not marked? It should be on my map. That's crazy. 1 second. Ah, there it is. Yeah. And you can see, unfortunately, this plaque has been stolen. But there's the marker for the Great Minquas Path. So actually, let me put, I can't believe I haven't, why haven't I marked that on my, that should be marked. So let me just quickly add that to my map here. We'll save it in ancient places. Done. Okay, so now that is on my ancient places map. So you can see that from Westchester over here all the way to Rose Valley, there is not a single other marking of the path. Um, so yeah, so is that like the one in Rose Valley? It is, yes. And so those are the two markings that are that have survived. And then from Rose Valley all the way over to Philadelphia, there's nothing. There, no one knows. Except I think I've figured out where some of the path went in Philadelphia. And I've been figuring it out because and I found it here. Okay? On Holstein and 76th, you notice some things. There's 78th and 76th Street. There's no 77th Street. Okay, that's very important in a moment. Now, here's why this is important. I made some notes for myself on this marker. Now, why can't I select it? Come on. No, I want to select you. All right, what's going on here? Console rock, dropped a pin. Oh no. Why can't I select this? Can I select any? Shoot. 1 second, guys. Why is this not working for me? Here we go. All right, I don't know why I had to scroll down to it, but you can see, I don't know if you can see this very well because I'm blocking it with my face, but I've made some notes here. So actually, let me go ahead and I'm going to select all, and then I'm going to copy. Okay. And let's, let me do this. Over here, I'm going to put in a document. I've got a Google Drive folder open over on this other screen that I have. And I'm going to start a document. And we're going to call it this is the start. Let me pull this over. Start of Minquas Path. Okay, so this is my research about where the Great Minquas Path probably started. Okay. Interesting that I can't merge these tabs. Guys, technology, what's going on? You know? What the heck is going on? I do not know. So, you know, I don't know if I'm just losing touch or what, but having a lot of technical problems today. Okay, so look, here are my notes from that historical marker, or you know, I put I put a pin down on the map where I think it started, and here's why. I'm going to document this for you so you can see how I think things through. Now, we're in Southwest Philly, and why are we here? We're here because this is at the end of the Schuylkill River. This is where the Schuylkill River goes into the Delaware River. Okay, so just to give you a little lay of the land. Now look at my map. Look at my notes. So I wrote, I think this is probably the true location of the end of the Great Minquas Path. Not with a Z. Okay. I reconstructed this starting from the mention of the path on this map. So let's go to this URL. Interesting. You know, some things are not working, other things are working very well. I don't know what's going on. Okay, look at this old website here. This website is it's darbyhistory.com. Okay? And it has this map of Darby from the I don't know when, from a long time ago. And it says, let me see if I can enlarge the words here so you can read along with me. It says, the Minquas Indian Trail, this is darbyhistory.com. The Minquas Indian Trail was a fur trading route from the Susquehanna region to the fur trading posts near the Schuylkill, and is said to be the first highway in Pennsylvania. That's true. Historian Paul Wallace, in his book, Indian Paths of Pennsylvania, wrote that the Minquas Path laid foundations for the state's commercial development and provides a key to much of the Commonwealth's early history. Holland, Sweden, and Great Britain struggled for dominance on the Delaware River to control trade. This map, here we go. This is where things get interesting. This map from Dr. Henry Paxson in Where Pennsylvania History Began, 1926, suggests the route passed between the Bluebell and Prince's Mill at the point where Woodland Avenue becomes Main Street in Darby and Island Road becomes Cobb's Creek Parkway. All right? So there's a clue. There's a clue. Now, we'll come back to that in a second. But first, take a look at this map. This map, it says it's from Where Pennsylvania Began, where Pennsylvania history began, 1926. And if you see Darby here, and then you see Cobb's Creek and Darby Creek coming in here. Let me center it. Why won't you center? Oh my goodness. Scrolling is really tricky at the moment. All right, there we go. So you trace it down. Here's Cobb's Creek, or it says Karakung. Karakung was the Native American word for Cobb's Creek. And Darby Creek, which is not on, the Native American word is not on this map, but I know it from, living around Darby, or exploring Darby, that the Native Americans called it Muckraton. So you have Muckraton and then Karakung, these two creeks coming down. And right as you cross Darby is the, let me try to zoom in a little bit here. That is the Bluebell Tavern. Can you see? This little dot here is the Bluebell Tavern. And here's Island Road. And right at Bluebell Tavern was the Old Swede's Mill. And the Great Trail is marked as a ... coming off of Island Road, which is also called the Great Minquas Path, the Great Minquas Trail, and the Great Minquas Trail splits here. Okay, you see the Great Minquas, and then the one trail goes this way, and then Great Minquas, and then another trail goes that way, goes south. And right here, if you can barely read, is called Mingo Creek. Mingo Creek. Okay, so at the end of the path, it split, and one section went to Mingo Creek. The other section went down something called Jones Lane. Jones Lane. Okay? And this stream here, the terminus, it says the terminus Minquas. Terminus Minquas. And I am supposing that terminus Minquas means the end of the Great Minquas Path, right? but I want to see the full. This image cuts off the words, so I want to see that. So I want to go find this old this history book and see if we can look at this map in a better way, or at least find more of this map somehow. So that's how this started. So then I said the end of the path on that map is Jones' house, which I traced here. Now check this out. So what I'm looking for now is, if we go over on this map, you see Jones Lane. Jones Graveyard is this square here, and the site house of Jonas Nilsson. Jonas became Jones. Okay? So I'm looking for who was Jonas Nilsson. And when I Googled Jonas Nilsson, I found this site. And this site is about the Mounds Jones house. Okay? Now, we're not super interested in the Mounds Jones house because Mounds Jones house is not in... It's north of Philly. It's somewhere... it's like up in Monotony or something. Where's the Mounds Jones house? I'm not sure exactly. It says it in this article, but what we're concerned with here is it says Jonas Nilsson acquired 200 acres at King Sessing in modern-day West Philadelphia and made his home near the present-day 77th and Laycock Avenue. Okay? Now, that's important. We're going to come back to that. 77th Street and Laycock. Jonas married Gertrude. They had 4 daughters and 7 sons. The wealth of Jonas Nilsson was accumulated by trading for furs with the local Native American population. Okay, that's a clue, because we know that the Great Minquas Path was a fur trade route. Eventually, he became the business advisor to Armagot, the daughter of Governor Prince. Governor Prince started the Swedish colony that founded Philadelphia. She became responsible for her father's holdings when he returned to Sweden. Later, Jonas Nilsson, he would acquire an additional 270 acres at nearby Aranomek from Peter Yoakum. Aranomek was the name of the ancient... It was on the banks of the Schuylkill River, I believe on the east side. Not entirely sure, but I believe Aranomek was on the east side of the Schuylkill River. Okay, he divided this land up among his 3 eldest sons, including Mans Jonas, later anglicized to Mons. Jonas died... Okay, so that's where that's who Mons Jonas is. But who is... We're looking for Jonas Nilsson, right? But here's the thing. We know already that... So Jonas Nilsson acquired 200 acres at King Sessing, and somewhere here, in this article, it says... I believe it gives more information, because it does say he traded furs with the Native American population. But I want to say there's more information here, because this article does say that the Minquas Path went to his house. Let me look here. I'm almost positive it says this. I hope I didn't just hallucinate this. Property, architectural history. Only 17 Swedish families in Berks County. Darn. Okay, maybe I've missed it somehow. Because I'm not seeing the key piece of information that I thought I would see here. Which is really that well, let me go back to my notes because maybe. So here's the thing. The key is this. He made his home near present-day 77th and Laycock Avenue. Okay? I wrote it here. Okay. Eventually, Jonas Nilsson would acquire 200 acres at Kingsessing, make his home near modern 77th and Laycock Avenue. Jonas married Gert. Okay. The wealth of Jonas Nilsson was accumulated. Okay, then I Google search Laycock Avenue, discovered from a Facebook post that it doesn't exist anymore. Like, what I mean is, when you go look at the map, so we're here, there is no Laycock Avenue, and there is no 77th Avenue, right? There's no 77th. So, but we're in the area, you know. How did I figure this out? There's no 77th and there's no Laycock. I discovered that from a Facebook post. Let me see if I can actually find that Facebook post. Laycock Avenue 77th. In and 77th Street, Philadelphia. Maybe it's this one. Yeah, we're getting closer. So, okay, no, not quite here. Oh, that's an interesting. That's the Mons Jones house. Interesting. Yeah, cool. Okay. Nope, that's not it. Nope. Okay, well, I'm not going to be able to find that Facebook post, but I found a Facebook post that basically was about how that whole area no longer exists. Like, that whole neighborhood is gone, essentially. So I then Googled Laycock Now Called and found this map. And here we go, okay? So I found this old map from the Philadelphia Streets Department, the Greater Philadelphia Geo History Network. And it's, check out this old map, okay? Let me make my screen bigger. Okay. So this map is from 1890. It's of Southwest Philadelphia, bounded by Chester Branch of the Philadelphia and Reading Railroads, Jones Lane, or 77th Street. So Jones Lane or 77th Street, Mingo Ave or Mingo Creek, and Island Ave. So those are the boundaries of this map. Now check this out. Okay, so if we go back to this article, it says that Jonas Nilsson had his home at 77th Street and Laycock Avenue. So if we look at this map, let's zoom in. You see Laycock Avenue right there. There it is. Okay, Laycock Avenue. Okay. Now, where's 77th Street? This is 80th. This is 79th, 78th. here's 77th. And would you look at that? If you zoom in, you can see there's this dotted line where Jones Lane intersects with 77th Street at Laycock. So Laycock Avenue, you follow Laycock Avenue over to 77th, which is, there's 77th for you, and Jones Lane coming in, this right here, this intersection, Laycock and 77th. Oh, that's Botanic, down here. Laycock and 77th, right here. Okay? This is where Jones had his house. So where is that? Now, I started looking around, and I noticed Holstein Avenue, and 78th. So 78th and Holstein is on this map. There's Holstein Ave, and there's 78th. Okay, see 78th and Holstein? And where are we? We're down near the airport, okay? So we're down near the airport. Here's Holstein. There's 78th. There's Brewster. So if we go back to this map, there's Brewster up here and Holstein down here. If you can read that. You see Holstein and 78th. It's right here. So then if we flip the map a little bit, let's just take a look here. Now we're looking at Holstein and 78th, and then over to 77th. If we look at the current map, there is no 77th. It just skips over to 76th, because Laycock would have cut right here, would have cut through this block above Holstein and below Brewster, would have cut right through here, and 77th would have cut equidistant between 76th and 78th, right about here, right? So that's why I dropped this pin, because this is the intersection of 77th and Laycock, which on this map you can see from this dotted line is where Jones Lane ended, and according to this article, this is where Jonas Nilsson had his house at the end of the Great Minquas Path, right there. You see it? So this is the site house of Jonas Nilsson on Jonas Lane, which is here, this dotted line, Jones Lane. And then his house was right here, okay? And this is where the terminus of the Minquas Path would have been. And when I look at the current map, this area would have been the terminus, okay? And if you extend, now we get into, okay, where was the exact end? Because if you look at this map, Jonas Nilsson's house sat a ways up the exact terminus, right? So the exact terminus of the Minquas Path is here. And if we do a quick image search, let's see if we can make this happen. Nope, that didn't work. Okay, I want to do an image search. Right. Getting a little dangerous here. Let me see. Okay, we're gonna try this again. So let's put that in. Nope. No. Okay, let me save this image. We're saving it in downloads. Now we're going to put this image in. We're gonna look for similar images. Okay. Visual matches. Now, here are some other interesting versions of this map. We can see more. Let's visit this. Nope, don't want to do that. Okay. So on this map, you can see... How do I... Yeah. Can you see it? Can you save this image? Let's try. And then just open it here. Okay, great. Now, let's flip it. We gotta flip it. How do we rotate this? Let's rotate. Tools. Flip. Horizontal. No. Not flip. Whoops. Let's flip horizontal. We want to rotate. Rotate left. Bingo. There you go. So yeah. Yes, correct. Cynthia. Yeah, you're very welcome. The terminus was the creek. So where's this creek, right? This creek is gone. But the Mingo Creek. Okay, but just look at this. Yes. So what is this creek? Because it's called King Sessing Creek on this map. King Sessing Creek, which is not the Schuylkill. Crucially, that is not the Schuylkill River. The Schuylkill River would have been farther off this map, right? But look, this map is very interesting because it shows Jones Lane and it shows the terminus of Great Minquas Trail, site of the stone trading post. Now, here's the thing. Jonas Nilsson, he had a stone trading post that he built at the end of the Great Minquas Path. And there's still photos of that, which I'll show you in a second. But if we're looking at this map, now we know that this is the supposed end of the Great Minquas Path because this is where Jonas Nilsson had his house and his trading post, and that's all those dots are now connected, right? So let me go back to my notes here. So the next is let's find Mingo Creek, right? So here there's this little dotted line, if you can see. It says Mingo Creek right here. And there was a Fort Nyavasa. Nyavasa was a Swedish fort right there. Now, Mingo Creek today looks like this. Here, it's this blue patch, right? So Mingo Creek and Mingo Avenue. What do I always say? Where one creek enters another body of water is a good place to build stuff. This is where the Native Americans built stuff, and we do it, the colonists did it too. So I think this area, right where I've dropped this pin, somewhere at where Mingo Creek enters the Schuylkill, I think is where there was a fort called Beavers Reed Fort. I could be wrong. Some histories say it's on the east side of the river, of the Schuylkill River, somewhere over here. But I think, essentially, regardless of whether that's true or not, I think Mingo Creek, this creek, was called Mingo Creek because it was at the end of the Great Minquas Path, right? The Great Minquas Path ended here, where Mingo Ave terminates. And look how straight Mingo Ave is. It comes here, and then you go across, and here's where Jonas Nilsson had his house, right? So I think essentially, if you draw an invisible line from Island Avenue, there would have been a diagonal lane called Jonas Lane coming off of Island Avenue, heading straight towards basically where Mingo Creek goes into the Schuylkill River. This area right here would have been the end of the Great Minquas Path, or this area right here. And Mingo Creek curved around where Bartram Avenue is. You can see the reason Bartram Avenue has this bend in it is that it's following where the ancient creek used to be, Mingo Creek, and it came around and would have gone, this would have been the top of Hog Island. And Hog Island is where the Philadelphia airport is now. And Island Avenue is called Island Avenue because it went to Hog Island. Okay, it went to the islands in the Delaware River. And Mingo Creek, which you can clearly see, would have curved around and followed what is now, what is this? Bartram Avenue, around and down into Eastwick. And that's why on this map, you see Mingo Avenue coming here. It would have bisected the end of Island Avenue. Okay. Now, what happened to King Sessing? This one is a little bit more of a mystery. King Sessing Creek. I'd have to look. I could look for King Sessing Creek in some other maps. Should we spend time doing that? Maybe we should, because I do want to find the exact end. And I believe that I believe that King Sessing Creek is sort of here somewhere. Now I want to show you there's another creek that's coming in this way, but you can see it on satellite better. Wait a second. Let me show you satellite. Okay. So there is a creek here, but it's called Harkness or something. But can you see it, like, just barely? So this is Mingo Creek. This is Mingo Creek, clearly labeled. This is the Schuylkill River. And then these are all oil refineries. These are like oil things, And somewhere right at the bottom of this oil refinery, there's this old creek, and it's coming in here. I think it's called like Harkness Point. I think this area is called Harkness Point. But this creek is sort of a forgotten thing. And it would have come in here. There's a pond. This is the remnant. This is what I believe to be the remnant of an ancient creek. Let me see if I noted it. So let's go look at this map. I noted that this is the remnants of an ancient creek per this old map from 1862. So 1862, George Smith map of Delco. So let's go find that map and confirm the location of King Sessing Creek, if it's on there. Let's see if it's on there. Okay, we'll keep that. I'm actually going to do this. We're going to switch over to this tab a little bit, I think, because this is a little better for certain reasons. Okay. Now. We might have to look around a little bit here. Okay, let's check this one out. This is a good sized map. Let's download it. Okay. All right, here we go. So check this out. Here is a map. Is this, okay, early settlements of Delaware County, Pennsylvania. Who is it by? Who is it by? I don't think this is the map that I was talking about, but let's see if we can see some creeks anyway. So if we go over to what is now King Sessing, look at the mess of creeks. This is the Schuylkill River, which, if you didn't know, the Native Americans called it the Manayunk. They called it Manayunk. That's where the term Manayunk comes from. It's the Native American word for the Schuylkill. So if you've ever been to that neighborhood, that's why it's in Philadelphia. That's why Manayunk is called Manayunk, because it was the name of the That was the name of the Schuylkill River. Yeah, no, not Aramingo. Aranomink, Aranomink, which you can see right here. Do you see that? Aranomink. Let me scroll up. See this right here? Aranomink. Aranomink was the name that of the neighborhood that we now call King Sessing. It was like roughly, it was not quite King Sessing. It was basically, here I'll just show you. I'll just show you. Okay. This area of up Cobb's Creek. Okay, you see Cobb's Creek. So this area, I guess it's now called Africa Town. Here's King Sessing up here. But this area that I guess is called Africa Town, I think this is what was called Aranomink. Elmwood Park, Aranomink. I think Elmwood Park and Africa Town, this whole area would have been called Aranomink. Okay? I believe. This is just me piecing it all together from these old maps, right? So now, knowing Aranomink is here, let's take a look at the creeks here. And you see there's Minquas Kill. Minquas Kill means creek or river, right? And look how wide it is. It was nearly as wide as the Schuylkill. It was a significant creek. Yeah, so you can see that the Minquas Kill came across, and here's King Sessing. And King Sessing, interesting. So on this map, King Sessing is down here, but it's not connected to. It's not connected to. It's not connected to a creek. See, I thought that this creek here, this bend was called King Sessing, but apparently on this map that's not the case. But oh, look at that! Wait a second, I'm noticing something. Do you see this dot dot dot? Look at this dotted line coming up and around. Ooh. And it's crossing Swedes Mill. That must be the Great Minquas Path. Oh my gosh, guys, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Do you see that? I think we might have found something significant here. Look at this, guys. Look, so it starts from here, the Minquas Path. This is where the Minquas Path would have gone. And look, it just cuts right at the top of that creek, as it would have. It goes up to the Swedes Mill, which is where the Bluebell Tavern is. And it crosses Cobb's Creek, or Karakung, right where Darby's main street was. And look at that. It cuts across north of Main Street in Darby. See this dotted line? I hope everybody can see this. Guys, this is crazy. I'm so excited. I think we discovered a map with the Great Minquas Path on it. Okay, and then it goes a little, oh, and it touches the top of this creek. And I know that's Eden Cemetery. That's Eden Cemetery in Darby. Oh, look at that. And it comes all the way down here to this. This is Makanapatis. This is Makanapatis Creek. Okay, guys, this is pretty significant. And then it crosses Little Crumb Creek here. So it pretty much cuts straight across Ridley, Springfield to Amos Land. Interesting. Okay. And then that's Crum Creek, or on this map, Crum Creek is called Crooked Creek. I like that. Crooked Kill. Crooked Kill. Interesting. So I wonder where that is. I think I've seen this before. I must have seen this before because I'm pretty sure I've marked these. Yeah, and then this is Rose Valley. This is Long Point, where it crosses Ridley Creek. And then it just goes straight up this way. There it is. It says it. It says, the supposed path of the Minquas Indians to the Schuylkill. Look at that. So it's supposed. But that's still pretty good. I mean, it hits the major marks that are known. Like, there's Long Point on Ridley. And then it would have come up here. And this is where it gets a little... This is where it gets a little tricky, but if I could find the deeds, the old deeds... Oh, look how far it goes. So basically, I could find the old deeds. But I could also just look at the creeks. You could look at the creeks and kind of guess. Because see how the map, according to this map, the trail just touches off the tops of the creeks where the headwaters of each of these little creeks go. So you could probably kind of figure it out that way. Wow. And it just kind of goes all the way out. You could figure it out that way, or you could look at deeds. And it crossed the King's Road from Edgemont. Interesting. Edgemont. This must be Lima, right? Somewhere right around here is Lima. New road from Indiantown to Chester. What is that? Oh, that's the Occohocking Indian Grant. Yeah, that's the reservation. So that's the road from the Indian town of Occohocking down to Chester via the King's Highway, which is Edgemont Ave? No, wait. Let me look at the map now. Let's go back here. Okay, I've gotten a little sidetracked here, but I think this is important. Right, so here's Long Point. This is where the path would have crossed. And then New Middletown Road. Old Middletown Road is the old King's Highway, I believe. So if we look at, and then see the creek comes up here. What is this creek? This is Chrome Run up to Granite Run, and this is Lima. Okay, so I believe, and where's Occohocking? Occohocking's like somewhere over here, isn't it? No, wait. There's Rose Tree Park. Where's Occohocking? Where am I? Hold on. Ridley Creek. We need Ridley Creek State Park. It's near, it's all the way up here. Okay. Delchester Road. There's the Occohocking Preserve on Ridley Creek. So this whole area was the Native American Nature Preserve. This is where they were put or given this little plot of land here on Delchester Road. Delchester Road went straight through it because the colonists, they didn't really care about the Indian land, so they just built a road straight through the Indians' land. And then, so this would have been the road coming down from Delchester to Middletown. And you can see this bend in Middletown Road. Now let's go back to the old map here. Yeah, so you see this this kind of arch here. And then this is Delchester. This is what we call now today Delchester Road. This is the new road from Indiantown to Chester. And now look at this arc. This arc here is roughly the same as this arc in Middletown Road with Delchester coming down. So we know, look at this. We can surmise that the Great Minquas Path, yeah, I think we can put a marker for the Great Minquas Path right here at the corner of Valley and Middletown Road, I believe. According to this map. Because look, the Great Minquas Path crossed right sort of at the end of that arc. But not quite there's no bend back. So Middletown Road bends back to the north. So just before the north bend of Middletown Road, because if you look at the arc that doesn't have a bend yet. So just if we assume the bend comes here at the tops of these, where are the creeks? Let's look at the creeks. Yeah, see, they're all sort of little lakes now, or ponds. The creeks are kind of gone. But yeah, I think the corner of Valley Road and Middletown Road, I'm going to mark it. I think this is a possible location of the Great Minquas Path. We're going to add it to ancient places. And we're going to add the note, possible location of Minquas Path per, and then we're going to put, well, what is this called? What is this map called? Let's go to the website. Oh, interesting. These are all old maps. Shoot. Well, what is this one called? What is it called? Let's go down to the corner. Is there any notation? Scales of miles. This map was in Geo Smith's 1862 History of Delaware County. So it is George Smith's. Okay, but it's called Early Settlements of Delaware County. So we're gonna mark that per George Smith map of Delco 1862. Okay, so yeah, so a lot of my information has come from this map, Hey, welcome to the new people. You didn't miss much, honestly. I had some technical difficulties at the beginning of the stream, and now Abe's here, so you all get to see Abe. And I'm just talking about tracing the Great Minquas Path, just figuring out where it went. So, yeah, here's Abe. We'll take a little Abe break. So that's kind of exciting, though, to be able to put a marker where I think, let's drop the man down onto the street. Let's see what the street view. So here you go. This is what it looks like today. Yeah, hey buddy. Abe needs some attention, doesn't he? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no indication that this was an Indian path at one point. Or that there was an Indian path somewhere near here, at least. At least none that I can see. It's all been fairly well graded and landscaped, and yeah, no indication. Okay. But I do believe that's part of it, and that the Great Minquas Path would have cut through these homes here and across Gradyville. Let's see if we can put a marker on Gradyville. See, this is the thing, though. I don't know if George Smith... I don't know if this map is, like, actually worth... I don't know if it's very good. That's the thing. So it's we're just sort of guessing here. But coming back to what started us looking, we'll come back to Gradyville Road another time. You can just see this dotted line. Jones Lane shot off to this creek, whatever this creek is. The Great Minquas Path is now Island Avenue. And this Jones Lane shot off to this curve in the creek, which in this curving creek, which doesn't have a name on this map, but today looks like this. I'll show you. Today, it's just this remnant of a creek coming down to the Mingo, right? And you can kind of piece it together when you look at the satellite image, that it more or less came in. This is the ancient creek that it doesn't really have a name as far as I can tell. I'm not sure. Maybe this is what King Sessing Creek. Maybe this is what it was called. But it would have come down here through these trees, maybe. Maybe it's underground a little bit. And then it would have emptied into Mingo Creek here somewhere. There are little spots where it might have popped up, like this. Here's a spot. This is a little lake that would have been an ancient creek. So maybe it actually the ancient creek kind of came out this far, and that would make sense because that's where Jonas, built his house and trading post right there, and there would have been a creek right on the other side, right at the end, right here. So maybe that's what it is. So you can see the ancient creek going this way. Man, I wish I could draw lines. I wonder if there's a way to draw lines on Google Maps. Let me try that. How to draw lines on Google Maps. Go to My Maps, create a new map, select Draw Line Tool icon. All right. Should we do that? Let's try that. Let's try. Because I just think it's easier for you guys to see what I'm talking about if I can draw lines. Oh, interesting. This is not what I want. This is not what I want. You can see some of the old maps I've made before. Untitled? What's that? This looks like my ancient map. This looks like my map of ancient places. What is this? Oh, these are all the PA historical markers. Okay, let me mark that. PA historic markers. You can find all the historic markers in Pennsylvania. All right, Abe's squirming. Bye, Abe. You can find them all, and you can download the map and load it into Google Maps. So that's kind of fun. And yeah, okay, so now let's try to, so what are the instructions? It says then select, okay, tool icon with connected dots under the search bar, select add line or shape and click draw custom paths. Measure distances, add directions, add a marker, draw a line. Okay, so let's draw some lines. Okay. Add a line or a shape. So somewhere right about here is what I think, where I think an ancient creek went. I think that's basically it. Okay. I think we're going to call this ancient creek. Cool. Now let's make it red so we can see it. And let's make it wide so you can really see it. Should we make it that wide? Yeah, why not? Okay. Cool. So I think there's an ancient creek coming in here, and you can see it on this map. This is basically the end of it. And this is what it looks like from the satellite imagery, just curving down. Right? Just curving down. That's what it looks like today. Okay. The end of this right at Bartram Avenue, right here, there's this patch of blue, or, you know, there's this this little lake. This green spot is right here. See that? I've got it all lined up for you now. That's cool. Okay, cool. There you go. So that's where the ancient creek would have been. That on this map is this thing. This bendy creek that's unnamed, swings down. You know, that's this thing. Right? I just don't think the creek exists anymore, but I think that's what it was. And then if we connect it all together, guys, this is what I do for fun. I can't believe it. All right. Then we connect it all together. Where's that other map we were looking at? I guess it's going to be this file here. Ah, yeah. Okay. So now you have Mingo Creek. Maybe we should rotate this. Well, this isn't super helpful. Man, I really wish there were a larger... I wish the Schuylkill River was visible on this map. I think it's just out of frame here. But I think this creek is the one that's coming down, and the Mingo Creek is somewhere here. Does that make sense? See, this map doesn't quite line up with... It's not quite lining up, is it? Let me put it over here. So we're looking for this bend. The bend in this creek. Go away. Why is this... How do I... Okay, there we go. So where is this bend? Here's the path, and I think this dotted line of the path is this straight here, and Jones Lane shot off to the north and intersected with this creek, which I believe is this on this map. I think it's this bendy creek with this little line shooting up here being this one or something. But it's just, the problem is the Schuylkill is not visible. I think this is the Schuylkill. And I think this little windy line would have continued to to the Schuylkill here. And then on the modern map, it's here. So I think let's draw another line. Let's just draw a shape right here is Jonas House. Jonas House / trading post. Okay, save. We're gonna fill it. We'll make it, let's make it green. Should make it green. And then we don't want it to be transparent at all. And we can make the border, well, border width doesn't matter, right? Well, let's make it all red. Let's make it all red, because it'll pop. You can see it better if it's red. How about bright red? No, that's pinky. There we go. Well, it's sort of an orange red. Whatever. That's good enough, though. Okay, so you can kind of see this polygon thing was where Jonas had his house and his trading post at the end of the offshoot of the Great Minquas Path. And let me draw the offshoot. Great. Let's call that Minquas. Hey. Minquas Path. And okay, we'll save it. We're gonna make it red and we're gonna make it thick. There we go. Bingo. And now let's actually make this thing, let's actually make it blue. Because it's a creek, right? Gonna make it dark blue? Yeah. There. Is that helpful? So this is what I think we're looking at. I think this is Jones Lane to Jones house and trading post on the end of this ancient creek that is shown in this map here and in this map here, sort of. Man, I really don't like, I wish this map were like straight up and down. Make life a lot easier if it were north-south, you know, but it's not. So what can you do? What can you do? But yeah, so that's how I've figured out that this is probably, I think it's the end of the Great Minquas Path. I think the Great Minquas Path ends right here, right north. This is it. This is where this is where the Jonas trading post was. Now, let me show you something else about the Jonas trading post. So in this previous article we were looking at, this map came from this website, if you remember. I was looking at this website, and there are a couple other maps that are interesting, but we're not going to spend too much. This is a map that's not super helpful, but it's a little helpful. But it's more about the Great Minquas Path, and it sort of shows, Fort Manayunk was here. So just going back, Fort Nia Vasa was at the end. Well, we'll talk about that another time. Let's stick with the Minquas Path. So Minquas Path, right. So where did this map come from? This map came from Where Pennsylvania History Began, 1926. So let's find that book. And I did find it. Okay, so sketch of a map. Yeah, by Henry Paxson. Full view. Let's click full view and see what happens. Look at this. So now we have this book from 1926 by Henry Paxson. Let's zoom in a little bit. Well, let's zoom out a little bit. You can see the way this book is laid out, you know. I've looked through this before, so I'll give you a little tour of it. Here's Adolphus Gustavus, or sorry, Gustavus Adolphus of Sweden. He's the king who set up New Sweden. And New Sweden was the first colony of that started Philadelphia. Okay, we should download this for sure. Let's download it as an ebook. Current page scan. Range. I don't want that. Why can I just download the whole thing? Let's download this before I lose it. Let's go to page 262, since that's the end, right? So this is the back of the book. So if I download that, what did it do? What did it do? Did it download the whole thing? Or did it just download that one page? Ah, it just downloaded this one page. All right, we'll figure that out later. But, can't download the whole thing, huh? Okay, anyway, so, you know, this is what the front of the book looks like. It's very beautiful. I want to get a copy of this, honestly. It's got a lot of interesting information for us to check out. Do I need to refresh? What's going on? Hello, hello. Wakey, wakey. Okay, refresh. There we go. Now it's loading. This is Johann Prince. This is at the time, he was known as the fattest man in America. He weighed 400 pounds. And he founded New Sweden. Okay. And basically what this book is about is this guy started at Old Swedes. In 1926, he started at Old Swedes and then did a little trip across Philadelphia to New Sweden and traced the old buildings that were still left at that time across Philadelphia. So here are some just important figures. Now look at this book. This is a very interesting book. This is a catechism written in both Swedish and Lenape. So the Swedish crown created these catechisms to send over to the New World to convert the Lenape Indians to Christianity. And catechisms were like Lutheran catechisms. They're like the prayers. They're like prayer books, right? So this is very interesting because look at some of these pages. Look at this. So at the top is Old Swedish. I mean, I can't read it. But then at the bottom, every other line, it has the Lenape translation. Have you ever seen Lenape before? The Lenape language, right here. Mochorik, Sachiman, Hokwaisung, Ok Hakings, Harit, Maneto, Paita Tok Ok, Theo Punutko, Chilbo Nawatas. Theo. So I don't know. Am I close? I don't know. And there's more. There's more. Look at this. Look at that. How many people growing up in Philadelphia have ever seen the original language that was spoken here for thousands of years before we speak English? And Swedish. You know? There it is. So Theo Fuwijvan Ranapi Mata Aipe Nirwana Chintika Konan Papi Suk Niger Pawatani Unar Chintika Kona Hokwesong Ok Hawkins Sachiman. Sachiman was Sachem. That was leader. So that might be God. Hawkins God? Something? I don't know. Holy? Maybe Holy Sachem? Hawkins Sachem? I don't know. Anyway, very interesting. Little notes that Campanius, the author, translated "Give us this day our daily bread" into "Give us this day a plentiful supply of venison and corn." Interesting. Okay, so that's how they. That's that. Let me zoom out a little bit because what we're looking for is anything about the Minquas Path, right? So here's the old Swedish blockhouse at Wakako. This is a picture of what Wakako looked like. This is Old Swede's church at the end of Christian Street, and then a house that used to stand there. This is what the banks of the Delaware looked like back in the day, in like 1830 or something. Now, let's keep going. I mean, the pictures and portraits here. This is what a Lenape village looked like. It was a palisaded Indian village with their huts and wigwams, and then a palisade of logs for protection around the village. Here's shipbuilding. Okay, I'm gonna move through these. I'll stop here and there if things are interesting. But I'm really looking for stuff about the Minquas Path. Okay, I'm seeing Tinicum. Wissahickon. Here's Old Swedes. Still talking about Old Swedes. All right. No new comments that I'm seeing. If you guys have questions or you're not finding this interesting, let me know. But this is what I've been up to. So, yeah. Let me check here. Yeah, we got some people watching, so that's good. Welcome everybody. Okay, so one of the interesting things that I didn't know that I learned in this book is that what is his name? Henry Wadsworth Longfellow? Is that right? Longfellow wrote about old Swedes at Wakako. He wrote about the old Swedish church, and he had this amazing little line about Philadelphia. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. He was like this poet, right? Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. This old guy. He visited Philadelphia. He was from Maine and Boston mostly, right? He was New England, I think. Yeah. I'm not exactly sure. I should know more about him than I do. But in any case, this guy came to Philly and he wrote this little line. Then, as she mounted the stairs to the corridors, cooled by the east wind, distant and soft on her ear fell the chimes from the belfry of Christ's church, while, intermingled with these, across the meadows were wafted sounds of psalms that were sung by the Swedes in their church at Wakako. Old Swedes, Wakako. Wakako is now Queens Village, or it's that area at the end of Christian Street in Philly. So that's a beautiful little vignette from colonial Philly. But let's keep going. Now look at this. Here's some old Swedish buildings built by a guy named Captain Lasse Kock at Passyunk. Now that's an unfortunate name. Did not age well. But it's one of the these are what the early buildings looked like in the colonial era. So this is from I believe 1682. One of these? No. On the plantation, it was at ye house of Captain Lasse Kock, either at one of or the other of these two houses, or at an earlier one on this plantation, that the first Indian deed to William Penn, dated July 15, 1682, for the southern half of Bucks County, was obtained by William Markham, deputy governor, before Penn's arrival. So these houses are what colonial Philadelphia looked like before Penn even arrived. They look very modern. Isn't that interesting? They don't look that old to me. Anyway. Here's another view. These are those houses off in the background. And here's another house. This was a little barn where the colonial army kept their some of their stores of gunpowder. Here's a house built by Swedish people in Passyunk. This is old Philadelphia. This is what it looked like. I'm going to skip down through some of this. The later history of Fort Beavers Reed is quite meager. So he gives a lot of interesting little anecdotes about Beavers Reed Fort, but I think he gets the location wrong. And then unfortunately, this map, the maps are missing. Dang it. Look at this. Why is this not... I would love to see this map. Dang, what a loss. It didn't get digitized properly. Okay, here we go. Here's a mention. The adaptability of this slope as a fort site, its proximity to the terminus of the Minquas Indian Trail, or on the Minquas River. Minquas River. That's the Mingo Creek. That's Mingo Creek. The main artery of the beaver trade, and such early data as we have, all seem to indicate this point as the logical location of Fort Beavers Reed, which point is marked on the map accompanying this book near the site of the Dutch Fort Beavers Reed. Yeah. But see, I can't find the map. This map is all messed up. See? So this is a disconnect in the historic tracing that we can do. Can't connect it here. You can just barely make out like what. Look at that, like some of the creeks and river maybe. Dang, it's too bad. Too bad this is all, it didn't scan. But you do have this little, so maybe we'll download this page, right? Let's download that page. So we have it. So here's some interesting, we have just passed through a portion of ancient Indian settlement of Passyunk, land of the homesteads of a number of the oldest Swedish families in America and the oldest settled part of the Delaware Schuylkill Peninsula. It took its name from the Indian sachem Passyunk. Campanius Holm, in a short description of the principal places on the Lindstrom map of New Sweden, says, "The banks of the river Delaware are inhabited by a great number of Indians of different nations. Their principal towns or places are 6, namely Poctquicksing, Pamipaka, Wequiaquen,ska, Wequaconich, Passayunk, and Nitobakonk. In each town there is a sachem over the people." It seems remarkable that Campanius makes no mention of Coquanac or Quequewaki, the Indian name of the site of Philadelphia, nor of Shakamaxon, where the famous elm tree stood, under which, later, according to tradition, William Penn held the treaty with the Indians. Yeah, so he doesn't even mention those places. Here are some lists of the Lenape from those towns. 6 of the 10 sachems who attended the Indian Council at Princehof in 1654 were from the Indian settlement in Passayunk. The names of the 10 chiefs were, from Passayung, Ahopaman and his brother Quericus, Peminaka, Spec, Wemoto, and Junker. From Nitobakonk, Matawerarka, and Shalitzi. From Sepasing, Winangini, Winangene, and Naman. So there you go. There's some Indian names. This book is really amazing. It's really amazing. I understood, but I'm looking for stuff about the Minquas Path, right? As I'm scanning, I'm just looking for the word Minquas, or path, or trail. Passing. Okay, Wakako. Yeah. Boundaries of this tract in general. Pegs Run. Another map that's missing. You can just see it's called, that's so heartbreaking. If you look here, I don't know if you can see that, but right here the words say, "Northern boundary of New Sweden by purchase from Indians by someone, something, you know? Too bad. It's just didn't scan properly, I guess. So we'll don't have access to this map. But this might be something worth writing to University of Michigan, I guess. It says digitized by Google, original from University of Michigan. Might be worth writing to someone to find these maps. But here you go. In the map made by Surveyor Holm for William Penn, settlers shown as holding land in Passayunk are the Cox, Jones, there's our boy Jones, Jonas Lane, La Cox, there's that road that no longer exists, and Procheros. Interesting, Procheros. Yeah. So I'm going to keep going. There's a lot more about all these people. That is John Smith's Travels in Virginia. So this is not a picture from Philly. Swedes named Nut Pearson left a gun. Okay. He's sentenced to 3 months coming on his board. Okay. Interesting little tidbits here. Skook kill. That's fun. So originally it was called Skook Kill. Yeah. Any sign of the Minquas Path? Look at the names of all these creeks. Jones Creek, Speaks Creek, Mats Hayes Creek, Little Creeks, Sipchun Creek, Rogue Creek, Tiny Creek, Shipbrook, Hollander Creek, Shackhaman Creek, Dam Creek, Three Creek, Hay Creek. All names of the past, the original streams entirely blotted out, mostly by sewers laid in their beds. Okay, I'm seeing a comment that says, Sean, look at page 69, top. 69. Well, I'm already at 81. You want me to go back to 69? All right, let's go back. 69. About a mile up the eastern shore, a distinct and striking feature of topography of in the topography of Passaic. Perhaps the first building. Yeah, Beaver Road. Right. Good eye. Okay, so maybe that's what you're pointing out. The first Dutch... Okay, perhaps the first building erected in Passaic, and the only Dutch stronghold of any importance in the vicinity of Tinicum Island, was Fort Beaversreed. Beaver, or, bever, meaning beaver, plus reed, meaning road or path. This is in Dutch. Hence, the Road of the Beaver. The fort was built in the spring of 1684 by Andreas Hood, who had been appointed commissary of the Dutch Fort Nassau on South River. The Dutch called the Delaware the South River because it was in the southern part of their colonial territory. The middle being the Hudson, right, where Manhattan is, or New York. They called it New Amsterdam. And to the south was the Delaware, so they called it the South River, near the mouth of Little Timber Creek in the present Gloucester County, New Jersey. Beaversreed was located in Passaic on a tract of land known as Armenvarius. So here's the thing. On the east side of the Schuylkill River, about 30 feet from the river, on a bend in the stream, and probably some distance above the Swedish fort, Nya, I can never, my Swedish is so bad. I lived there for 2 years and I should know this. Nya Korsholm. Here's the thing. I don't actually think this is correct. I think he's wrong. Why do I think he's wrong? Because the Beaver Road didn't go across. It wasn't on the east bank of the... And also, I'm pretty sure that recent archaeology... So he's saying... Here's what I disagree with. He's saying that the Beaversreed Fort was somewhere over here. It was somewhere across the bridge on this side of the Schuylkill River. And I just don't think that's true. I don't think it was here. Oh, you're saying the old... Wait, sorry. The old page 69 mentions the Minquas Trail. Okay, I'll go look for it in a second. 1 second. I'll finish what I was saying here. This guy thinks that this Fort Beaversreed was on the other side, the east side of the Schuylkill. I don't think so. I don't think it's on the east side. I think it's on the west side. I think it was here. And I'm pretty sure there's been archaeology to back that up. Beaversreed Fort Archaeology. Possible site of Fort Beaversreed. Originally... Yeah, there you go. So there's a picture. Okay. Possible site of Fort Beavers Reed, originally the south point of the first terrace upstream on the east side of the Schuylkill. Oh, shoot. On the east side of the Schuylkill. Shoot. Wait a second. Oh, no. Am I wrong? I might be wrong, folks. Shoot. Yeah, there's Lake Hawk. Lassacock. This is a bit tricky. Schuylkill River, Hollander Creek. Lord Almighty. Lord Almighty. So, okay, so Swedes Mill is up here. Dang. See, I thought this picture... Okay, I thought this was Mingo Creek, but I guess not. Alright, 1 second. Possible site of Beavers Reed. Figure 6. Paul Huey? What is this? Old... I'm looking for the paper where that came from. Where that image came from. Dang. Oh, view publication. There we go. Let's see. Dutch colonial forts in New Netherland. Oh, man. Okay, we're looking through this. Here, let me move it over so you can see a little better here. So I'm trying to find... I thought... Lord Almighty. I thought Beavers Reed Fort was somewhere else. Okay, so... What is this? Oh, can I download the full text PDF? Oh, okay, this is better. Let me just download it, and then we can look at it here. Okay, this is better. You can see it better, right? What is this? That's not Philly, is it? Castle Island, Weiberg. No, this is somewhere else. This is the next page. Also looks like something else. This is like Fort Orange somewhere. Okay. Let me see here. What is this? This is Albany. Okay. We don't care about Albany. At least not right now. Oh, interesting. Should River? Detail from Virginia near the Jonas from the courtesy of the... I wonder if Sud River means Delaware. You know, that's what... And then this is Jersey. And then there's Schuylkill. See that? I don't know if you can really see that. Let me, well, see, Schuylkill, Schuylkill, something like that. Sud River. And this is the bend in the Delaware, and there's the Schuylkill right here coming up. So I think this is Philly. And you can see a fort here, Fort Nassau. But nothing on this side. There's Timberkill. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Fort Amsterdam. Yeah, Fort Nassau on the Delaware. Oh, here's an interesting map. Okay, let's take a closer look at this. Ooh, Minquas Kill. Look what I see. Do you see Minquas Kill right there? Oh, wow. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. Okay, Fort Christina. Minquas Kill. Huh. But that's quite a bit farther south. That's quite a bit farther south. Because look, this up here is... that's Philly, right? That's... this is the bend in the Delaware. This is Upland, which is Chester. And here's Schuylkill up here. This map is a little wrong, I think. Because the Schuylkill should be down here. Man, some of these old maps are a little... Yeah, I'll come back. I'll come back to the previous... I haven't forgotten. I'm just following this for a bit. I'll come back to the other book real quick. I'm just curious. This is how I go. I just go down these rabbit holes, you know. So we looked at this one. But where was Fort Beavers Reed? What is that? What is that? Detail from 1930s map. Fort at Svanendale. Fort Upland. So is that Chester? Huh. I wonder. Wait, check this out. What is this? Cape Hinlopen. Godson's Bay? And you know what I see? Look at that. Are those little wigwams or something? What are those? I think these are little drawings of wigwams. That's fascinating. I think I lost it. Oops. Where did that drawing go? I think I lost it. Oh, here we go. Located on the west side, just north of Cape Henlopen, the colony was intended to support itself. Wow. Interesting. When one of Goddard's partners finally arrived at Swanendale in 1632, he found the scattered bones and skulls of the colonists and their livestock, and, quote, coming by our house, which was destroyed, found it well beset with palisades in place of breastworks, but it was almost burnt up. At least one map from the 1630s shows the fort in some detail as a square enclosure with two square bastions at opposite corners. A single building is within the enclosure. Yeah. So that's it. That's Cape Henlopen. That's pretty cool. Interesting. Okay. Okay. This is how you can really go down some rabbit holes, you know? You can really go down some crazy rabbit holes. But I want to stay on track. We're looking for the Minquas Path, which I'm looking for Beaver's Reed now. Further, Buren. No. Beaver's Reed. Okay, Fort Beaver's Reed. Here we go. Okay, let's read a little bit more here about Beaver's Reed. On June 8th, 1633, the same date that the West India Company purchased a flat along the Connecticut River near Fort Good Hope, the company also purchased from the Indians a tract on the west side of the Delaware River along the Schuylkill, not far from Fort Nassau. West side. See what I'm saying? West side. Okay? West side of the Delaware River along the Schuylkill, not far from Fort Nassau. The Dutch successfully resisted English intrusions into the area. Very same time, the English were encroaching on Fort Good Hope, but the Swedes were more persistent. After their arrival on the Delaware in 1638, they began to intercept the Fort Nassau trade on the Schuylkill. In April 1648, the Indians invited Andreas Huda, a commander at Fort Nassau, to build a trading house on the Schuylkill. Trading house. Okay. The Swedes protested as soon as he began construction, and Huda consequently had the house surrounded by palisades. The house is like, it's a trading house. It's like a trading post at the end of the Great Minquas Path. This is what would become Fort Beaver's Reed. Okay. The Swedes retaliated by cutting down all the trees in the vicinity of the fort. I think this is actually the story that is in this book, right? So maybe okay, let me just finish this story, but okay, they planted corn on the land near the fort where the Dutch had hoped to plant a small garden. Vice Director Johannes Lamontagne next arrived and negotiated with the Indians a confirmation of the former Dutch purchase of lands along the Schuylkill on the west bank, remember? The fort was named Fort Beaver's Reed, literally Fort Beaver Roadstead, meaning a protected place near the shore where ships could anchor and load cargoes of beaver skins. The Swedes, however, were determined, and there were only 6 able-bodied Dutchmen capable of bearing arms to defend both Forts Nassau and Beaver's Reed. In September 1648, Stuyvesant learned that the Swedes, quote, had a house erected in the Schuylkill directly in front of our Fort Beaver's Reed. Since it is 30 to 35 feet in length and about 20 feet wide, it deprives us of the freedom of the stream, so that when our vessels come to anchor there under the protection of the fort, our fort can scarcely be seen. Essentially what he's saying is, it wasn't really it was a house, but it was also like a wall. So the Swedes just built, I think what happened is Fort Beaver's Reed was like this little trading post on the banks of the Schuylkill, and the Swedes just built a wall in front between the Schuylkill and the Dutch trading posts, so that the Dutch couldn't be seen from the river, and this just like kind of kills all the trade for the Dutch, right? Sort of strange that, I don't know, like, weird story, but okay. The rear gable of the intrusive building was about 12 feet from the gate of Fort Beaver's Reed. Not only did the Dutch consider this structure an intolerable insult to their honor, but one night a Swede came to the fort and contemptuously pulled the palisades of Fort Beaver's Reed apart and broke through them. The conflict between the Swedes at Beaver's Reed involved land as well as trade. In 1651, when several Dutch settlers planted gardens on some land behind Fort Beaver's Reed, once again the Swedes immediately arrived, burning the fence and destroying the gardens. Okay, I feel like I have to explain this a little better, but I'll finish the story. The unbearable situation with the Swedes finally prompted Stuyvesant in 1651 to outflank the entire Swedish colony with the bold construction of Fort Casimir downriver, abandoning Fort Nassau. Queen Christiana of Sweden granted the area in which Fort Beavers Reed was located to Sven Schutt in 1653 as inviolable property. Stuyvesant, however, took all of New Sweden in 1655, and in 1656, thousands of beavers could be purchased from the Indians at Fort Beavers Reed. Land in the area was cleared and fertile, and in 1660, Vice Director Wilhelm Beekman proposed establishing a village there. The tract on which Fort Beavers Reed stood was called Passyunk. Located on the east side of the Schuylkill, and today part of South Philadelphia. Darn, I'm wrong. All right. I really thought I was on the west. Okay. Historic maps showing the topography along the east bank of the Schuylkill reveal a terrace that existed above the low, wet area along the lower Schuylkill. The southern edge of this terrace at the Schuylkill seems to be the most likely location of Fort Beavers Reed. Other historians have arrived at the same conclusion. Fort Beavers Reed stood on the east bank of the Schuylkill in the district of Passyunk, opposite the debouch of Minquas Kill, where the river bank begins to rise beyond, upstream from, the Penrose Ferry Bridge. Ah, interesting. So it's opposite the Minquas Kill. Opposite. So what they're talking about here is, let's just go back for a second. So they are saying it was somewhere here. Like right about here. Because this is the Minquas Kill coming in. And this is the debauch. Debauch just means emptying. And then this is the, we call it the Platte Bridge now, but Penrose Ave. It's called Penrose. It's Penrose Ave, and that's because there used to be a ferry here called Penrose Ferry. Man, so I guess Fort Beavers Reed was on this side of the Skook. Man, I really was wrong about that. Matthew Shop Henry drew a map on which he placed the site of Fort Beavers Reed a short distance downstream from this location, just south of a creek called Sepahen, or Sipehon, on the Skull and Heap map of 1752. Whoa, Skull and Heap. That I want to check out. Copy. Paste. No, not this one. Let's stick to this one. Okay, we're gonna come back. There are too many little rabbit holes, but Skull and Heap map. $1,800 for this map. What the hell? Okay. Can we steal it? Okay, let's just... How about this? I decline. Alright, wow. Okay, people, how do we scroll? Okay. Now how do we zoom? Zoom. No. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, wait. I'm gonna download it. Save image as. Save. Let's see if we can just open it this way. Can we zoom in with any detail? Oh, it's all a little blurry. Maybe if I First enlarge, then download. Does that work? Nah, shoot. But so what's it saying? It's saying somewhere here. But it said the debauch of the Minquas. So this would be the Minquas. So they're saying somewhere up here, like on this little. He placed the site of Fort Beavers Reed on a short distance downstream. I don't see anything on. It's blurry, but I don't see anything. That looks like a Sipahon. Oh, so it would have been. I can barely make out that this has an S shape to it. Sipahon Creek. So it would have been just south of a creek called Sipahon, somewhere right there. But that area would probably have been too wet for occupation. It was low and swampy, and Fort Beavers Reed more likely was built to it's built to the north at the beginning of the higher east bank of the Schuylkill below Point Breeze. The home map depicting property owners in the 1680s shows Peter Cock owning a lot. What a name, Peter Cock. Okay, owning, it's like a double. Okay. Owning a lot at that location on the south edge of the terrace at the Schuylkill. Was evidently Peter Cock Jr., who was there as early as 1683 with 100 acres, of which he had improved 3 acres. The 1693 census lists him with a household of 7 individuals. He died between 1705 and 1708. In the 18th century, a series of mansions, blah, 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 on banks of the Schuylkill. The map shows a house identified as Hannes at the location of former Cock property. This was who died. Okay. Large commodities plantation fronting containing 600 acres drained. The upland meadow has large orchard, well set for handsome dwelling house, barn, hole under a good fence. Plantation large enough to be rented. 2 tenants by 1752, suitable, very dairy, blah, blah, blah. Okay. During 1760s, this property, with the possible site of Fort Beavers Reed, passed to John Hannes. Nichols' map of 1777 shows a single house in the East Bank Terrace would seem logically to have been the location of the fort. This topography remained unchanged for nearly a century. I see. So they're talking about this spot right here. Like this area. Because there was this upland bit. So they're saying somewhere here. Which would have been somewhere here on this map. Like up here. But that's not opposite the Minquas. But it would have made sense. I can see that because if you look at the topography, so if this were like a low area, this would have been flooded sometimes. So you wouldn't have wanted to build a fort here. You would have built it here and then the Indians would have brought the beaver pelts across and loaded. You could have ships loading here. I don't know. So it just it doesn't quite fit yet, but yeah, then everything got industrialized. Huge, disastrous fires and explosions occasionally occurred. Streets were laid out through the possible site of Fort Beavers Reed was still part of a farm. Soundings of the Schuylkill were conducted for dredging, and a straight bulkhead line was established downstream from the terrace so that the lowland presumably could be filled and improved. In 1884, dredging removed 52,000 cubic yards of mud from the Schuylkill to form a channel 400 feet wide and 24 feet deep below Point Breeze. More than 500 ships, steamships, sailing barks, brigs, schooners, and barges came to the Point Breeze refineries during the year following July 1, 1884, to load nearly 2 million barrels of petroleum. Dang. Okay. Dang. During the first decade of the 20th century, it's just all went to shit. Now, this is the possible spot on the first terrace on the east side. Basically, perhaps some of the development involved the possible Fort Beavers Reed site for a Philadelphia land use map dated 1942 indicates the company had finally acquired property where Fort Beavers Reed may have once stood. Truck parking lot today close the possible site of the fort passes the edge of the terrace Schuylkill where despite house construction, it nevertheless always possible some buried remnants have survived. And that's it. So it's just conjecture. Okay. So actually, dang, this is a problem. So it's all just conjecture. They don't actually know. And this was just a guess. All right, we're closing that. Let's go back. So now, let's go back. We're closing this. Now, let's go back to the book we were looking at. Where did I put it? Yeah. No, not this. Not this one. I want to find this book. Oh, yeah, we couldn't download it. That's right. Okay, so coming back to the book. Now, someone in the chat said the old page 69. So not this. Okay, so you're saying in this book, page 69, 66, 68. Yeah, there's 69. It's all washed out, right? Oh, 69. Okay. Gallows Lanes meet Schuylkill River Road, the adaptability of slow terminus of its proximity. Yeah. 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 No, I mean, that's what we were just discussing is where's Beavers Reed. There's Minquas Path. So, okay. Let's move on. 123 of the previous book. Okay, page 123. Let's move on. Peter Lecoq. Indian Poignant Rambo. Okay. Map. I'll get to 123 and stop when we get there, but I'm gonna go a little slow here. Here's Skull and Heap. We just looked at that map. Here are those creeks. Okay, I think now we're back to where we were. Okay, let's continue. Passyunk Road. has the dignity of being the oldest thoroughfare in Philadelphia, is mentioned by that name as early as 1660 and is still Passyunk Avenue. Passyunk passed into history in 1854. At a meeting of the General Assembly of that year, a bill was passed February 2nd, providing that the city of Philadelphia, as limited by the Charter of 1789, should be enlarged by taking in all the territory comprised within the county of Philadelphia, which, of course, included the township of Passyunk, and official use of the old name thereafter ceased. Nea Corsholm, or Fort Manayunk. After crossing the Penrose Ferry Bridge, on the right along the river bank, near the bridge, is the site of the old Swedish fort Nea Corsholm, or Fort Manayunk. All traces of the old fort have long been obliterated. It was erected by Governor Prince soon after his arrival and was designed to hold the Swedes as against the Dutch and trade was designed to hold for the Swedes as against the Dutch the trade of the Minquas Indians on the Susquehanna River. The only description we have of it is that by the Reverend John Campanius in the writings of his grandson as follows. Manayunk, or Schuylkill, this was a handsome little fort, built of logs, filled up with sand and stone, and surrounded with palisades cut very sharp at the top. It was at the distance of 4 German miles east of Christina. It was mounted with great guns as well as other forts. Those forts were all situated on the water side. This fort, okay, that's interesting. This fort was intended to control not the Schuylkill River, but one of the branches of the Minquas Creek, by which the Indian beaver trade reached the Schuylkill and Delaware rivers. Minquas Creek. Okay, so now they're saying, coming back across the ferry, there was a fort somewhere here. There was a fort somewhere here. Okay, we're gonna close this, right? Okay, let's see. After crossing the Penrose Ferry Bridge, so we're crossing. This is the Penrose Avenue. This is the bridge. So crossing the bridge, near the bridge is the site along the riverbank. On the right along the riverbanks. So crossing the bridge, and you look to your right. So here, right where I dropped this pin. So I'm actually going to remove this. I need to change this because I screwed it up. Right? This pin is not accurate. It's actually, yeah, it's not Beaver's Reed. Here. It's not Beaver's Reed. It is Manayunk, or Fort near Corsholm. Nea Corsholm, or Fort Manayunk. Start of the Great Minquas Path before Jones Lane start. Okay, so I think, the path has it changed. The end of the path changed many times over history. So I think basically this fort was built. Okay, great. No. Why didn't my changes? Fort Naya Course Holm or Fort Manayunk. Oh, aka Fort Manayunk. Start of great. Great. Okay, so this is where I think somewhere here it'd be really interesting to check out what's in these woods. But I think somewhere here is basically where where this fort would have been. So, because it says look off to the right, and when you're coming across the bridge, you look to the right, and there it is. Near the bridge is the site of the old Swedish fort near Korsholm or Fort Manayunk. All traces of the old fort have been obliterated. Okay. But it's one of the branches of the Minquas Creek by which the Indian beaver trade reached the Schuylkill River and Delaware rivers. So, I think that's I think that's where it is. Where the path goes. Little clues here and there, right? In regards to the school, these lands purchased, possessed by the company. He constructed there a fort on a very convenient spot on the island near the borders of the Kill, which is from the west side secured by another creek, and from the south, east, and east side with valley lands. It lays about the distance of a gunshot in the Kill. What? Okay. On the south side of this Kill, on the same island, beautiful corn is raised. This fort cannot in any manner whatsoever obtain any control of the river, but it has the command over the whole creek. While this Kill or creek is the only remaining avenue for trade with the Minquas, and without this trade the river is of little value. At a little distance from this fort was a creek to the farthest distant wood, which place is named Kingsessing by the Indians, which was before a certain and invariable resort for trade with the Minquas, but which is now opposed by the Swedes, having there built a strong house. Whoa, what a sentence. Okay, at a little distance from this fort was a creek to the farthest distant wood, which place is named Kingsessing, which was before a certain and invariable resort for trade with the Minquas, but which is now opposed by the Swedes, having there built a strong house. Okay. I'm not sure I understand. So Kingsessing was woods to the north. Okay, about a half a mile further in the woods, Governor Prince constructed a mill, Old Swede's Mill, on a kill which runs into the sea, Delaware River, not far to the south of Matinicunk. And on this kill, a strong building just by the path which leads to the Minquas. So what's happening is he's describing, okay, and this place is called by the Indians Kakarikunk. so that no access to the Minquas is left open. And he too controls nearly all the trade with the Indians on the river, as the greatest part of them go a hunting in that neighborhood, which they are not able to do without passing his residence. So you can see they're building buildings farther and farther up the Minquas Path, deeper and deeper into the woods, trying to preempt one another. So I'll show you what they're saying. Basically, back in the day, this was all woods. This was all woods. This was, let me draw for you. So this whole area, you have to imagine there was sort of like this border of wilderness, this loose border of the wilderness, kind of like this. Okay. So imagine this line. This is the wild. And maybe actually let me redraw it. So it's something like more like here's Eddystone. Let me be a little more accurate. So it would have been something more like this. Something like this. Yeah, maybe I'll do it more. It's very loose, you know, it's not like a hard, fast thing. Something like that. Is that right? Let me think. Yeah, I think it's something like that. Okay, and this line, we're gonna make it orange, make it big. This is the line of the wild. Actually, let's make it green. Okay, so everything sort of, you have to understand, this is where, let's put New Sweden in here. We're gonna make a shape. Okay, this is New Sweden. Okay. So New Sweden is down here, and it's expanding. You know, over time, New Sweden is expanding, and it's going up the creeks like this, right? And slowly they're expanding, the Swedes are expanding their territory up Darby Creek, in pushing the line of the wild north. And they eventually bump up against the Dutch, who were coming over from New Jersey. So the Dutch were kind of like, the Dutch had this area. Something like this. I'm being very loose. This is my understanding. I'm probably wrong, but this is what I currently understand. Okay. So this was kind of the Dutch. And they all wanted this road, this freaking road, man. Like, they all wanted to make this road their own. And the road kind of came like this. Come on, stop. Let me. it kind of went like this, right? With this little bend here. Okay? So so first the Dutch, they come across and they make a fort here, and then the Swedes feel encroached upon because they want to control the road, so they put a fort there also. And so this whole area is being disputed. The Swedes start putting a church over here. They have other settlements in New Jersey, and eventually the Dutch kind of just give up and move on, right? But that's what they're describing, is eventually this guy, the Swedish governor Johan Prince, he started putting little forts and expanding the territory of New Sweden up the road, up this Great Minquas Path, so that he could control more and more of it, and pushing deeper and deeper into the wild, so that the line of colonization moved further up the road. That's what they're describing here. I hope that helps. And this place is called by the Native Americans Kakarikunk, so that no access to the Minkus is left open. Okay, and they control it. In his article on New Sweden, Justin Windsor's book, Narrative and Critical History of America, Keene says that Fort Nya Korsholm was doubtless the structure called by Campanius Manajung, or Skorkelin. Dr. Keene adds, Campanius, to be sure, mentions Korsholm as a distinct fort, but he does so in terms which show that he is citing Lindstrom, and speaks of it as a territory granted by Sven Schut, embracing Passion, Kingsessing, Makarhoting, and the land on both sides of the Schuylkill to the river Delaware, and makes no reference to Fort Skorkel. All right, I don't really. I mean, this is like historians arguing with each other. There's Fort Mifflin. On the left side of the road, opposite the site of the old fort, was located Penrose Ferry Inn, burned a few years ago. Here, 3 roads converge. Take the center one to Fort Mifflin. At the fort, turn left on Short Plank Road at the sign. Okay, and proceed to the entrance to the fort. Okay, this is a little bit of what's a bit about Fort Mifflin. There's Fort Mifflin. There's Fort Mifflin again. Anything more about the Minquas Path? Sort of telling the story of Fort Mifflin. Fort Mifflin has a really interesting history to it. It's definitely worth looking. Definitely worth knowing the history. But where are the references to the Minkus? Fort Mifflin, Fort Mifflin. Oh, there's a Swedish log structure. Talking about the boons. Oh, this is a cool picture of a Swedish house that stood until 1908 or early 1900s. Yeah. Okay, Tinicum. More about old New Sweden. There's the Penn Treaty. Okay, more old houses. This is all Tinicum stuff. Oh yeah, the yacht club at Tinicum. I have to go back there. I have to check out the yacht club. There's a lot more history there that I missed. This is the house that Boone was born in. Right? No, John Morton. John Morton was born in this house, I believe. Yep, John Morton. Okay, we're scrolling down. Here's John Morton's grave. I recognize that from Chester. Prince Old Swede Mill. Oh yeah, this little rock in this stream is all that's left of the old Swede's mill. Lane to the Kingsessing or Kingsessing Kill. Oh, wait a second. The trail passed by Old Swede's mill. Up, 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 up. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, wait. Leaving John Morton, follow a winding road. Turn Glenalden, Sharon Hill to the Main Street, Derby, and proceed to the Main Street and Woodland Avenue. Crossing a bridge over Cobb's Creek, called Swede's Mill Creek. On an old survey about 1720, where Governor Prince's old Swede's Mill stood, Chester Pike, laid out in 1687, and then known as Old King's Road, is one of the oldest highways in Pennsylvania. From Crum Creek to Old Swede's Mill, this road practically paralleled the Indian Trail leading from the Susquehanna River to the Swedish settlements on the Schuylkill and Delaware. This trail was the main artery of travel in trading expeditions of the Minquas Indians. Over this path, the Indians carried on their backs the skins of the beaver and other fur-bearing animals collected in the back country. The trail passed by Old Swede's Mill, thence down Jones Lane to the Minquas or Kingsessing Kill Creek. So the Minquas and the Kingsessing are the same. Or is that an option? Is it saying it went to the Minquas or to the Kingsessing Kill Creek? Or is it saying Jones Lane went to the Minquas, also known as Kingsessing Kill? Maybe they were different. They must have been different, right? Where it ran between the residence, strong house, and trading post of Jonas Nilsson on the north and property of Captain Lassakak, later of James Hunt on the south. So it's saying, yeah. So Jonas Nilsson on the north, the Minquas, or Kingsessing. So we're talking about this. This creek to the north was Jonas Nilsson's land, and to the south was Lassakak's land. Captain Lassakak. Soon after his arrival in 1643, Governor Prince recognized the need of the early settlers for a watermill. This is evident from his letter to the West India Company, February 20th, 1647, in which he says, "The windmill formerly here, before I came, would never work and was good for nothing." Prince built his watermill at a place he called Mondal, Swedish for at the place where the mill is located, and where, as Ferris says in his Original Settlements, the cheerful clatter of the machinery first broke the deep silence of the Pennsylvania forest. Wow. And then, so you can see, this is Prince's old mill. This is the stone. You can see little holes in the stone where the mill had been placed. It was like a small little structure that was just a small mill. And the author is claiming that he uncovered it. He removed debris, located the rock with its holes. Yeah, so there's the rock from the old Swedish mill. Maybe a millstone from the old mill. Okay, so then Karakung, Swedish settler was called Karakung by the Indians. That's Cobb's Creek. And he goes on and on about the mill. There's what it looked like. It was quite small, just a little mill. Okay. He's very proud of the mill. So maybe he should be, you know. That's the first mill in Pennsylvania. So that is kind of cool. Lots of stuff about little context. This is the Bluebell Tavern, which it's still there. You can still go, and I'll probably do a video on this at some point. Maybe I'll find that millstone in the creek. It's just into the creek from the blue. Here, I'll just show you. So the tavern is here, right? So if we do this, should be able to. That's it. This is the Bluebell Tavern. Where's? No, can't. Where's the little man? I want to do street view. All right, guess we can't do street view. I don't know why. Oh, it's over here. It's off the screen. Okay, so here's what's left of the Bluebell Tavern. Whoa, let's back up a little bit so you can see it. So it's on this corner. There it is. So it looks it's in various states of disrepair. You know, people don't really pay attention to this place much, you know. It's more or less just like a bus stop. But it's still, I mean, it's a very important old building. It's a piece of history here. And it used to be much bigger. Like, this is all that's left, but you can see the house used to be bigger. This is what it used to look like. And now only this little chunk in the front is left, I believe. Or maybe it's this little bit over here that's left. So, you know, not much is left. But down in the creek over here, somewhere down here, like, see that waterfall? That waterfall, somewhere right there is where the mill was. That's where this photo of the... Let me show it. Let me go back up. You can even see it. Yeah, there's this wall. This is that wall right here. And then this is the waterfall right back here. If you zoom in, you see that waterfall right there. So the rock is somewhere here. And I'll definitely I'll do a video. That'll be a good video, actually. I'll do a video on that. So yeah, let's keep going here. Okay, we're getting closer. This is just stuff. The home of John Bartram. All right, Bartram's garden stuff. Yeah, John Bartram. Old tree. Yeah, we'll do Bartram's garden another time for sure. More Bartram's garden stuff. Ah! Here we go. Page 160. Thank you for the chat. In the chat. This is it. So, man, I'm getting stiff from hunching over too much. Okay, here we go. Jonas Nilsson and his Indian trading post on Jones Lane. Returning to Island Road, turn left, and after going a short distance, enter a narrow roadway. Okay? Look at this photo. This is the end of the Minquas Indian Trail, now Jones Lane, Kingsessing, which separated the properties of Jonas Nilsson and Captain Lasse Kak on Minquas or Kingsessing Kill, Kingsessing. Nilsson's Indian trading post ruins in the middle distance. See it there? This, we're going to download this. Okay. This is the end of the Great Minquas Path. And this is what I have been looking for. I have been trying to figure out where exactly this was. And I believe... what did I do? Whoops. Okay, I believe that this is basically right. Let me go back here. Yeah. I believe that it is basically, we are looking, this is what, oh, we're not north-south. That's, here we go. I believe the end of the Minquas Path was right here, and that this little patch of water is this watery bit that's visible in this photo. I believe. I might be wrong. I mean, this whole place was industrialized and dug up tons of times, so who knows? But I think that this is the creek, and this, you know, so this is Jonas Nilsson's house, and then this creek is here. Maybe the house was, but it was at the end of 77th and Laycock, so it was like right there, and this watery bit off to the side. I don't know how much to read into that, but okay, this is the Jones Lane, which leads obliquely to the left off Island Road. This is Jones Lane, is so called in colonial days and still retaining that name. Proceed on the same, crossing the railroad tracks at grade, and continue to the site of the trading post. Oh, I see. So you go down this lane and cross the railroad tracks at grade, which I imagine means above. So there were railroad tracks there. Huh. Okay. Continue to the site of the trading post. On the left side of this lane, on the high point of land overlooking the Minquas or Kingsessing Kill, in the old Swedish settlement of Kingsessing, stood the dwelling of house of Jonas Nilsson, at a point now near the intersection of 77th Street and Laycock Avenue, on the present Philadelphia city plan. 77th Street and Laycock Avenue. So there's the reference that we started with way back. Oh, it was on the other page here when we started here and got 77th Street and Laycock Avenue. That's the origin of this, is this 1926 book, I believe. The hearthstone of this ancient house, a block of native stone, was found by the author in 1916 in the ruins of the Nilsson House and has been removed to the sesquicentennial exposition grounds, where it forms the stepstone to the entrance of the replica of the Wicaco blockhouse. Now that would be an interesting stone to find. I wonder what that means. Oh, okay. At grade means ground level. Got it. At grade. So ground level. So, okay. So there were train tracks at ground level. I guess what I'm wondering is if this hill, you can see there's this hill. Well, let me show you in another photo. So if we keep going, here's a short distance farther along on the same side of the lane was the famous Nilsson Indian trading post and strong house with walls 2 feet thick. The ruins of this interesting relic of pioneer days have also been almost completely obliterated within the past few years. So this is a photo taken in 1916, 100 years ago. It's 2026, 100 years ago in 1916, 110 years ago. This is what the Nilsson trading post at Kingsessing looked like. And it's on the other side of the hill. And I believe you can see, is that the Schuylkill off in the distance? And then there's like a bridge down here maybe? Is that like an old photo? You can barely make out the bridge. Do you see what I'm saying? Am I off my rocker? But if you look in the distance, I think that might be the bridge over the Schuylkill. I think that might be the ferry. I don't know. But is that the Schuylkill or is that the Minquas, the King Sesson kill in the background? At the bottom of this hill, right? And this hill is, I think we're now on the other side of this hill. So this path goes around and over, maybe? I don't know. But I think on the other side, on the downslope on the other side of that hill was the trading post here. And it says Jones Lane extends a short distance beyond the trading post site to Mingo Creek, the Minquas Creek of the Indians, who paddled their canoes over it. So, I guess that this stream in the background is Mingo Creek, or Minquas Creek. Yeah. Yeah, this is Mingo, or Minquas Creek in the background. So this Jones Lane would have passed a little farther along, down to the banks of Mingo Creek. On the other side of the lane was the property of James Hunt, who procured the land, March 27, 1685, from Captain Lassakak and the original Swedish owner. Jonas Nilsson was an important personage in the Swedish colony. His name appears often in the old records. He was a soldier from Skunings Harad, Skaraborg Lan, Sweden, born about 1621. Nilsson came... Okay, we're gonna skip this. He was gigantic. He was described as almost gigantic stature, 6 feet 6 inches tall, with broad shoulders and a massive frame, and indeed he must have been a man of much physical endurance to have borne unscathed the discomforts and hardships of Governor Prince's 6-month sea voyage. For about 3 years after his arrival, he was a soldier in the garrison at Fort Elfsborg, near the mouth of Salem Creek, on the east side of the Delaware River in what is now the state of New Jersey, the fort from which Governor Prince, who happened to be there in person, ordered the shot to be fired that halted the vessel of the Dutch navigator de Vries as it sailed up the river. Mosquitoes were so bad at Fort Elfsborg that it was called Miggenborg, or from Migor, mosquito or gnat, and on that account it became uninhabitable. After it was abandoned by the Swedes and destroyed, probably about 1646, Jonas Nilsson was granted several hundred acres of land in King Sessing, which was confirmed to him later by Francis Lovelace, Esquire, one of the gentlemen of His Majesty's Honourable Privy Chamber and Governor General under His Royal Highness James Duke of York and Albany and of all his territories in America. A portion of the original Nilsson tract, which is now owned by the Chew family of Philadelphia, lineal descendants of Jonas Nilsson, has been in possession of the family since 1646, or 280 years. No parallel to this in continuous ownership of real estate can be found in the city of Philadelphia. That's interesting. The Governor Lovelace patent, dated May 18, 1672, is quite interesting and important, as it shows that the tract at the time it was acquired lay on the extreme western confines of the settlement. Okay, we're going to read that in a second, but let's look at this. Jonas Graveyard, King Sessing, the Jonas Nilsson property, showing ruins of walls recently removed. So that's a graveyard. Wow. Wow. Okay. Interesting. All right, let's read this. To to all to whom these presents shall come sendeth greeting, whereas there are several pieces of parcels of land in Delaware River in the tenure occupation of Jonas Nielsen, viz. 1 parts lying and being near the town of King Cess, called and bounded north and by east on the land of Hans Mounsen, east by south on the Schuylkill, south by west on the land of Peter Andreas, and west by north on the desert woods, 1 parcel of land lying near the town of King Cess, abutting north, desert woods, 1 home lot. Gosh, okay, this is very tedious. Yeah, I'm not reading that whole thing. That's really very tedious. Okay, Jonas Nielsen also acquired by grant court 200 acres of land in a place called Moherhutting, above the mill on the west side of the river. Nielsen lived on the homestead property on Jonas Lane with his wife Gertrude, and family, 7 sons and 4 daughters, until his death in 1693. On this tract, at the end of the Minquas... Oh, there's Lapoensa? Yeah, Lapoensa. On this tract, at the end of the Minquas... Wait. Okay. On this tract, at the end of the Minquas Indian Trail, he built his dwelling house and established an Indian trading post. It was built of stone, and in this respect, it was different from most Indian trading posts of that period, which were built of hewn logs. There, Nielsen successfully conducted the trading business with the Indians for many years, probably until its importance began to wane. The Great Trail of the Minquas or Susquehanna Indians. Okay, wait, this is good stuff. We're downloading that. The Great Trail of the Minquas or Susquehanna Indians from the Susquehanna to the Schuylkill River was no doubt one of the earliest used by white settlers before the coming of William Penn. It is indicated on a map of a survey made by Benjamin Chambers for William Penn in 1688-1689, in accordance with the terms of a deed from the Indian chiefs Sakahopo, Sikane, which is Sikane in Delco, Sakane, Malabor, and Tungoras, the Indian Sakamakers, which I assume means Indian sachems, like the sachems, right owners of the land, to the proprietary on July 30th, 1685, for a tract of land lying between Makopanakan, als Upland, now called Chester River or Creek. So Makopanakan was Chester Creek, and the river or creek of the Pemapaka, now called Dublin Creek. Pemapaka. What is Pemapaka again? Is that Pennypack? Pemapaka? Pennypack, and backward into the woods, described as follows in the deed. Beginning at the hill called Conshohocken, on the river Manayunk or Schuylkill, from thence extends in a parallel line to the Makopanakan, Chester Creek, by a southwesterly course, and from said Conshohocken Hill to ye aforementioned Pemapaka, als Dublin Creek, by ye said parallel line northeasterly, and so up along ye said Pemapaka Creek, so far as the creek extends, and so from thence northwesterly back into ye woods, to make up 2 full days' journey, as far as a man can go. Okay, so this is just a description of the plot, right? Let me just make sure. For a tract of land. So this is just a description of the tract of land. And so from thence up the creeks extends, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the Indian Trail, as shown on this survey map, led from the Nielsen trading post on Minquas or Kingsesson Kill past Old Swede's mill at the head of tidewater on Cobb's Creek, thence crossed diagonally the whole extent of Delaware County, through Darby, Ridley, Nether Providence, Middletown, and Edgemont townships, then passed through Chester County, up White Clay Creek, to the Piquet Valley by way of the Gap, PA. All right, that White Clay Creek, that might be wrong. That's too far south. This great trail, where it crossed Ridley Creek at Long Point, Rose Valley, where we know there's a historic marker, a half mile south of Moylan, has been marked by the Pennsylvania Historic County Borough Rose Valley. The marker, which unveiled, it's about the marker. The Great Minquas Trail consists of monolith, to which inscribed a bronze tablet shown on the panel. So sad. Possession of the Indians and the trail carrying pack. A life-size bronze beaver rests on a low stone at the base of the shaft. Well, the beaver's gone. It wasn't life-size. That's overstated. It was small. It was like this big. But the plaque and the beaver have been stolen, and they're gone. Very sad. I mean, I saw it all my life growing up. I went there a few times and saw the beaver plaque when I was growing up there. So, very sad that it's gone. Okay, Jonas Nilsson became bodyguard and confidant, business advisor Armagnac Prince, wife of Jonas Papagoy and daughter of Governor Prince, who had large land interests and remained here for some time after Armagnac Prince, esteemed by her own people as haughty and imperious. Because of this or other reasons, she had aroused mild animosities against herself, and Nilsson often safeguarded her against reprisals from her neighbors. Okay. Some of the dislike may have been visited upon Nilsson himself by a few of his neighbors, who, unable to cope with him in physical strength, harassed him with numerous petty suits, as his name is frequently found in the record of the Court of Uppland, either as plaintiff or defendant. Nilsson was one of 24 of the leading Swedish settlers who, in November 1677, petitioned the Uppland court for permission to settle together in a town at the west side of this river, just below the falls, Bucks County, opposite Trenton. The names attached to the petition are Israel Helm, Lawrence Koch, Morris Koch, Andreas Ben, blah 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 blah. Okay, lots of dudes. Here's Tishkohan. Oh yeah, Tishkohan. So these portraits are hanging in I believe they're still in the art museum. They might have been moved now, but when I went to the art museum, they're there, so you can see the original portraits of Tishkohan and Lapowensa. Okay, more about the land stuff. So, that seems to be it for the... I don't think there's much more about the Minquas Path, is there? Who's that? Oh. Pretty Swedish girl, I guess? Jenny Lind. She was a singer. Swedish Nightingale. Okay. Interesting. Don't know why that's relevant. The town of King Sessing was probably in the vicinity of the old Swedes mill built by Governor Prince. Jonas Nilsson figured in the first business to come to court, change location. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Guys, is there anything else about the Minquas Path in this book? See the native Minquas. Okay, we can look back through the long vista of 200 years and behold that little area, about 100 yards square, and see the native Minquas, some of their canoes paddling down Christine, marching single file, with their packs of beaver and otter and deer skins, and their tobacco and maize and venison down to the fort to exchange them for the cloths and the blankets, the tools and the trinkets of European production. There we can see the wandering Indian, regardful of all around him, but, according to Indian custom, suppressing every motion of surprise and wonder. And there the trafficking Swede, spreading out his goods and his toys, his blankets and his beads, to tempt him to barter. There we can view the matronly squaw, with her papoose at her back, fixed in a basket woven for the purpose, and ornamented with porcupine quills and other finery. And there the tawny maiden, just ripening into womanhood, gazing with intense interest on the beads and the mirrors, and the shawls and the ribbons, hardly able to suppress the working of desire to see her person glittering in the splendid treasure. With the cellar walls of the dwelling house and the ruins of the trading post standing, and the family graveyard almost intact in 1915, Major David S.B. Chu and the author, lineal descendants of Jonas Nilsson, endeavored to save this almost the last of the early Swedish landmarks. After much effort, a tract of about an acre of ground embracing the ruins was set aside and confirmed by the Park Commission as a part of the city park system in December 1922, but owing to lack of funds appropriated by city councils for such purposes, the land was not purchased, and by virtue of the Act of May 3rd, 1923, it has since been automatically removed from the city park plans. Yeah. And there you go, folks. So it's gone. It didn't get saved. That's too bad. It would have been amazing to save that trading post at the end of the Great Minquas Path. You know? That would have been amazing. I wonder what happened to it. I wonder who destroyed it and where they sent the rubble, you know? Hey, Fort Niavaso was little more than a blockhouse. It was located upon the west bank of the Mingo Creek and was probably just south of the present Island Road, although a blockhouse had been built by Prince near the old Swedes mill at Mondal, probably the same year that the mill was erected in 1646. It was too far away to afford protection to the Swedes who dwelt on the Minkus Kill, hence the erection of Fort Niavasa, which also was an important strategic stronghouse in Swedish control of the beaver trade. In conjunction with Fort Nya Korsholm on the Schuylkill River and Fort Göteborg, Gothenburg or Göteborg, something like that, at the southern end of Tinnicum Island, Fort Niavasa completed a chain of fortifications that gave the Swedes absolute control of the Minkus Kill and the Schuylkill at the end of the Great Minquas Indian Trail. So I'll download that. Yeah, so what he's saying is this whole area had a series of forts. This whole area had a series of forts that allowed the Swedish to control the end of the Great Minquas Path, which was somewhere just here. Okay, in his report for 1647, Governor Johan Prince of New Sweden writes, "The fort in Skellenkill, or Schuylkill, called Korsholm, is pretty nearly ready. Further, to prejudice the trade of the Hollanders, I have built a fine house called Vasa on the other side of Korsholm by the road of the Minkus, so strong that 4 or 5 men, well provided with guns, balls, and powder, will be able to defend themselves there against the Indians. 7 freemen, sturdy fellows, have settled in that place. Again, a quarter of a mile, the Swedish mile is equal to 6.625 English miles, higher up, by the said Minquas Road, I have built another strong house, 5 freemen settling there. This place I have called Mondal. So that's where the Bluebell Tavern is and the mill was. So from the site of Fort Nyavasa, continue on Island Road to Tinicum Road, turn left into Tinicum Road, proceed to the Penrose Ferry Road, and turn left. So this is a an axe. It is a type of weapon made by European blacksmiths and was used by the Indians at the time of the Swedish settlements on the Delaware. Wow. Iron tomahawk. Crazy. That's cool. Passing the Bleakley House on the right, continue Penrose Ferry to the Three Junctions Road, Penrose tracks, passing Gallows Lane on the left, and pause on the entrance of the Old Point Breeze Driving Park on the right. This park was once one of the most famous in the country. When Albert Edward, Prince of Wales, later King Edward VII of England, visited Philadelphia, he was taken to the park to witness the races. It was then one of the show places of the city. Okay, interesting. Here's a replica of the blockhouse, the Swedish blockhouse. Cool. It's kind of fitting, we're coming up on our own, 250th anniversary, and for the, what would it be, 150th anniversary, they built this Swedish, they built this Swedish blockhouse, a replica. We could have done that in Philly. That could be fun. Okay, stuff about the blockhouse. This book is a little bit all over the place, isn't it? Okay. Yep. Interesting, guys. Oh, this is the inside of the blockhouse. Okay, this is what it would have looked like. Oh, is that Washington? There's George. Good old George Washington. Yeah. We have now reached the end of our journey over the most ancient area of Pennsylvania, no section of the state richer in history and traditions of the past. Yeah. Amazing. So then some stuff about the Swedes. That it was the Swedes who, by their policy of humanity and respect for the native Indians, made it possible for white men to secure and maintain a permanent lodgment on Pennsylvania soil, that it was the Swedes who in early days took high rank in art, science, music. Okay, so it's like pro-Swedish propaganda. That it was from those Swedes already experienced with relationships with the Indians and new country's problems that William Penn largely drew advisors for his government, that it was Hesselius, a Swede, the pioneer American artist who painted from life those remarkable pictures of Lapawinsa and Tishkohan, the earliest portrait of Delaware Indian chiefs, that it was from the brush of a great Swedish artist, Wertmuller, whence came the famous portrait of Washington, widely copied, that it was a Morton whose vote decided the fate of the Declaration of Independence, that in our wars arose heroic Swedish figures, Fersen in the Revolution and Eriksson and Dahlgren in the Civil War, and that it was Sweden who sent us Jenny Lind, the Swedish nightingale, whose marvelous voice, winsome personality, and acts of charity will ever be cherished as a national remembrance. But above and beyond all, we should remember that Tinicum Island, where in 1643, Governor Johan Prince established Swedish sovereignty and whence Swedish settlers spread into adjacent Wakako, Passyunk, and Kingsessing, is the spot in that vast, hitherto unoccupied ground of the New World where Pennsylvania history began. Nice. And then a bunch of appendices. Okay, so there you go. There you go, guys. Definitely some interesting appendices. Oh, what is this? Are these the... Oh, yeah. These are the instructions for Johan Prince, governor of New Sweden. Very interesting. So you can read what she wrote, what the Queen of Sweden wrote to Governor Prince, and when she told him to go settle on the Delaware River, how to set up a colony there. It's very interesting stuff. I've read this before, so, but I can definitely recommend it. It's very interesting. Is there anything else here that we need to check out? Well, list of note for native Swedes. Okay. Oh yeah. These are just like lists of names of people who lived here, I guess. Goodness gracious. Look at all these names. I guess these are marriage listings. So there you go, folks. I think that's pretty much it for this segment. I'm getting tired. I think we're gonna call it there. But this is what I do. This is basically how I've been searching through records to find the Great Minquas Path. And I think you can see that according to this book, at least, and the extent of the documentation that we have, this area right about here is where the Great Minquas Path ended, and specifically right here on Holstein Ave, basically where there is now an auto parts store and a bunch of like trucking depots and other stuff. Let's just drop the little man down to check it out. So yeah, I think basically in this parking lot, this whole area, this is what is left of the end of the Great Minquas Path. Right here. This is what it looks like now. Maybe back in there, maybe something back there, or who knows? I think it's all just been leveled, you know. I think it's all been leveled. Maybe here. So there you go. That's the end. So I'm going to do a video on this more properly at some point, and we'll check it out. We'll check it out, you know. I think it's probably back here or over here. This is probably all wetland area from this ancient creek that's no more. Maybe this section, or I think it's gonna be right here. Yeah, like right in this parking lot is where the trading post was, and the end of the Great Minquas Path on Jonas Lane. So that's it. If there's anybody still watching, thank you for hanging in there, and I hope everybody had a great evening. And yeah, I guess we'll call it there. Thanks everyone for stopping by, and I'll talk to you next time. All right, bye.